Well, today's inflation figures are welcome. In particular, underlying inflation remains contained after moderating to 2.1% through the year to March. Now that's down from 2.6% through the year to December. Now this means that underlying inflation now sits at the bottom of the Reserve Bank target band after falling to its lowest level in over a decade. So by any means, these are very much welcome figures. So let's just go through some of the detail. CPI inflation increased by 0.1% in the March quarter after being flat in the previous quarter. There was also a significant decline in CPI inflation through the year to March, which fell to 1.6%, down from 3.1% through the year to December. The result is lower than expected, largely reflecting a very strong decline in fruit prices, which fell by 30% in the quarter and detracted 0.4 percentage points from the quarterly CPI outcome. Now, this not only reflects the ongoing recovery in production from last year's natural disasters, but more favourable growing conditions, with banana prices alone falling by 60% in the quarter. What this now means is that fruit and vegetable prices are nearly 8% below the level seen prior to the natural disasters of 2011. Now this result is welcome, but we do know that many households are still doing it tough. We can see this in the figures. There are a number of seasonal factors affecting, in particular, health and education. Health prices rose 4.4% in the quarter, contributing 0.2 percentage points to the quarterly outcome. Now, despite this, I think what we can say is that contained inflation is a reminder of our strong economic fundamentals that put the Australian economy in a league of its own. What we have here is solid growth, low unemployment, strong public finances, a huge investment pipeline, plus contained inflation. And that does create room, and has created room, for interest rate cuts last year. Last year's interest rate cuts mean that a family with a $300,000 mortgage is now paying around $3,000 a year less in mortgage payments than they were prior to us coming to office. So there's no doubt that solid growth, low unemployment and contained inflation is a very, very healthy combination. And with growth returning to trend, it's appropriate to return the budget to surplus, despite all of the challenges that we see with an economy in transition. Returning to surplus gives the Reserve Bank maximum flexibility when it takes its decisions independently of the government. Homeowners and businesses all recall how much it hurt when interest rates rose 10 times under the previous government. And that's why this government has been so disciplined about its budgets. Returning to surplus is Australia's best defence at times of global economic uncertainty and in times of a changing global economy. It creates a buffer in uncertain times, and it's a very clear sign of a strong economy. So the upcoming budget will lock in confidence by delivering a surplus, despite the fact that the government has lost something like $140 billion in revenues since the global financial crisis. Now, I want to say a few words about what Mr. Abbott has said today and what Mr. Abbott said last night. Now, if Mr. Abbott was more focused on the economy, if he was more focused on family budgets, if he was less focused on his mud bucket and the baseball bat, then he would have known that the Reserve Bank is meeting on interest rates next week, not this week. Now, I think it's not a great surprise that Mr. Abbott hasn't got any idea about interest rate decisions, because he never had any idea about them when he was in government and rates went up 10 times in a row. Rates are now 250 basis points below the level that applied when Mr. Abbott was last in government. So it's not a surprise that he has little knowledge of how and when interest rate decisions are taken. And of course this comes on top of his contribution last night on the 7:30 report, which would have, I think, sent shivers down the spine of many of Australians that were watching that performance. While on the one hand he ran a mile from Mr Hockey's performance when he was in London, he did confirm that there would be pain under an Abbott-led government. He does have a responsibility to spell out in great detail what his economic plans are and where he will cut, because we know the significance of the cuts that were outlined by Mr Hockey, something like $90 billion if you use the measure that Mr Hockey was using, which is, of course, expenditure in Korea.